It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of The Grind Line here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by my line mates, Devin Little and Evan Sabourin. Guys, we're finishing up the draft. We've got free agency happening in a few hours as everyone's watching this. So we're going to start seeing some deals, some contracts, stuff going on. Lots of stuff going on already in the NHL. Some trades being done, some big trades happening on day 2 of the draft.
Absolutely.
And Yzerman, of course, was busy before that with some trades we'll talk about. But Devin, how's it going?
It's the most wonderful time of the year outside of playoff time, honestly. Like you just said, draft's done. That was a really fun event. And now we're, like you said, as you're watching this video, we're probably already starting to dissect who Yzerman just signed, right? This is the time where things happen in the NHL. Very excited about it.
Yeah. And Evan, how's it going?
Yeah, man, I had a great time at the draft. It was an amazing experience to see that stuff there. Really excited. I mean, free agency tomorrow, and we'll touch on what we just read on social media. But yeah, man, it feels like that feeling like, when you're a young kid and tomorrow's Christmas and you can't sleep the night before. And you've already made plans to go to your buddy's house tomorrow at 9 a.m. to watch the draft and sit on the couch all day and watch it. I fortunately have a day off. So I'm very excited to see what happens tomorrow. I think we're going to see something good.
Yeah, it seems like Yzerman's preparing himself for some big stuff happening, and we'll see what happens. So let's get going. Now we got a lot to talk about in this episode, so let's do with our one good, one bad. And I'll start with you, Evan, since you just finished up the draft. What's a good and a bad here?
I mean, the good. It's been a lot of good this week, and I think I'm probably gonna. I don't want to steal the headline here, but the good is the draft is finally over. How long have we been talking about this draft? It was an amazing performance that Vegas put on. I don't understand how any of that stuff works inside that sphere.
Yeah,
it's just amazing, and it's almost hard to comprehend until you see it inside because it's just, everything's moving. And if you have vertigo issues, I don't suggest going there. Because not only is it a very steep platform inside, but the whole thing is surrounding, and you're looking around, and your neck hurts, and it's crazy. But it was an amazing experience just to be there, and getting to talk to some scouts about some of the Red Wings plans was really fun for me. My bad was I feel like there was talent left on the board with their second round pick. I know we'll get into that at some point in this show. But there were some players that I know that all three of us had advocated for in our last show that were still on the board. I was actually, during the second round, driving home from Vegas, and I probably almost got again in accidents as I'm trying to update my phone while driving on the freeway. So yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later. But there's a couple picks that I think were a little confusing for me, but so be it.
yeah. I mean, every team or every fan of every team probably has those thoughts that, I wish they would have drafted him. Yeah. It's just how it goes. And we're not in the rooms. We're not sure what they're targeting and how much they've seen of some of these players. So, I mean, just gonna have to wait and see how it all pans out. And that's probably 5 years down the road. We won't even know. So, Devin, what's good and a bad for you?
I'm gonna piggyback off of Evan's good. How about the giant draft board that the Sphere allowed? Just even from watching it on camera, you're looking up there to see Celebrini's name. I think that's awesome. It's kind of almost out of a movie or something. And then also just the trade alert. I think that was the perfect use of the event and everything. Honestly, if you know what, like Evan said, there's actually a lot of good we can talk about. My one bad is going to be that supposedly they're planning on not doing a centralized draft anymore. all the teams are going to be just kind of drafting out of a hub, kind of like they do at like the NFL and
Yeah.
I think some other leagues as well. Now that's not confirmed. I believe Bill Daly's kind of hinted that they might be back at an actual venue next year as well. But with just how this draft went at that venue, um, you got to run it back at the very least. You can't follow that up by having teams in separate cities. That just
Yeah.
was such a cool event. Um, yeah, there's a lot we got to talk about today. I will leave my one good and one bad at that.
Yeah,
I will say this though, real quick. I will say this real quick though. It was 110 out there. It was really hard getting around Vegas in that kind of heat. And I know I walked with a couple of scouts from the link to New York in that heat. And by the time we got there, we were all ready to go home. So at 110 is kind of hard to deal with. It's you're very sweaty, very.
Were you keeping hydrated?
Oh yeah. Yeah, hydrated. That's what
definitely
we'll call
have
it.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one thing about Vegas is the temperature. It is the desert after all. All right, let's dive into some other stuff. And we talked about Yzerman being active, not on the draft floor, but beforehand, talking some trades and did a couple things. One that I was surprised by, but we'll probably not be surprised by why this happened. Trading Jake Walman to the San Jose Sharks for pretty much nothing. And basically a cap dump. And that's what Yzerman even said afterwards. He said that he had to move a contract. This is how it goes. Unfortunately, this is what needs to be done with the salary cap era. And that was a big one of the trades. And then trading a top prospect in Andrew Gibson to the Nashville Predators and got a couple things in return. He got a second-round pick, basically recouped the pick he had to put into the Walman deal, and then used that pick also. So he didn't lose a second-round pick in this draft, and then got another prospect in return. So for those two trades, I'll start with you, Devin. Any thoughts, comments, concerns about it? I mean, Jake Walman is a top pairing defenseman. He's been that last couple seasons, and now they don't have him, and they didn't replace him. So,
if I was gonna add on to my one good, one bad, my other bad is that we still don't really know why it was Jake Walman that was the sacrificial lamb here. Like you said, Yzerman did say he needed to shed money and he needed to move a contract, and we all kind of knew that was the case, right? We all knew that the Red Wings needed to make room on that blue line. They probably needed to shave off a little or create a little cap space. But no one was looking at Jake Walman to be the guy who did that. Like, and to make matters even more, like, oh, well, he makes a lot of money. He makes $3.4 million. He has 2 years left on that deal. That's the exact same numbers for Justin Hall, who we all were expecting was going to be the guy. Now, obviously, we don't know how these negotiations go. We don't know if, Justin Hall would have demanded a first-round pick to be attached to him for some reason. Maybe they paid a second round pick because Walman's actually usable. I don't know. And I think that's kind of the issue is that we don't know. I would love to hear why it was Walman. Because I get the idea, I get moving salary, I get moving the contract. I just don't get why it was him. And hopefully someday we find out that information. I don't know if we will though. Good luck to Jake over in San Jose. They got a good one. And then the Andrew Gibson one actually is a little it was surprising. And then the Walman thing kind of overshadowed it because that came out of left field. But Andrew Gibson's a really good prospect. I know I had him ranked in the top 15 the last time I ranked the Red Wings prospects. I think I might have even had him at 12, so top 12. And he was he was that guy, the type of defenseman they love to go after in the second round. High potential, moves the puck, mobile, all that good stuff. Maybe a little bit of a longer runway in terms of development, but Gibson had a really good season this year, and he was one I was starting to kind of key in on as this guy might be something. And now if he is something, he will be something in Nashville. So just like San Jose, good luck in Nashville. Nashville got a good one there. But I guess long story short, it's all maneuvering, right? You gotta give up assets to get the things you want. Yzerman wanted cap space. These two deals helped him do that. And like you said, Matt, they did get a prospect back from Nashville, so it's not like they traded Andrew Gibson and Jake Walman and only got 3.4 million back. They got a prospect back, but still, a week or so later from those deals, it's still a little puzzling what happened there.
I mean, they got Jesse Kiesekin, a pretty good prospect from the Predators. He's a forward. He's not a defenseman.
And you read his prospect profile and just what reports about him, and he's a Red Wings guy. Like
true,
there's
yeah.
like
I get it.
Yes.
High motor, good skill, versatile.
Yep.
There's the three buzzwords that Yzerman loves. So there's a reason
Yep.
got him in there. All right, Evan, I know you probably have some thoughts on this one. We talked Justin Hull should have been the guy out of here. Well, it's a key guy in Walman. What do you think about these two deals?
Well, the Walman deal is still puzzling, and I refuse to believe that there's not something more there, because and Stevie's been getting killed in the social media for this trade. But here's my conspiracy theory that I floated out earlier. I mean, is it possible? And you guys can tell me. Is it possible that those future considerations? Everyone's talking to everyone. Half of these guys already know what's going to happen tomorrow. Tampering doesn't exist. But at the end of the day, if someone gets put on waivers, San Jose has the first rights to claim that player. And that's where I'm curious if that's what the future considerations are. Because I can't see attaching a second round pick to Walman, especially when you saw all these other GMs around the league even going on record saying that they would have had interest in Jake Walman. So I don't understand why he couldn't have been released, and then they had to add a sweetener.
Yeah,
and then it's to the Sharks. So I feel like there's too much going on there, that there's something more out of this. And you can't convince me that someone's that would just do that, especially Steve Yzerman. So that was a little puzzling for me, as well as the Nashville trade as well. I thought Andrew Gibson had a pretty solid year this season, and he was a decent prospect, and especially the right-handed shot, which is something the Red Wings need. But the whole thing's puzzling for me. It really is. But I think tomorrow, in less than 24 hours now, that we're gonna know what that was all about, because it just doesn't make any sense. It's not. There's nothing that doesn't make sense. So that's where I'm at with that. And obviously we got some good news today too before coming on air here. So it's tomorrow's going to be a big day. I think tomorrow's going to be a big day for the organization as far as what the future holds. And I think we're going to see some wheeling and dealing, and I'm pretty excited for it, as we already said.
And like I said, it seems like Yzerman's got something in the oven, and we'll see what comes out of it. So for my off the rush question, since they traded Jake Walman, they're gonna have to have someone to replace him, conceivably. There's been talk about another Jacob coming in, or Jacob Trouba coming in from the New York Rangers, and that has been around. And Trouba's like, why am I in the trade rumors? He was surprised by it. We'll see if anything comes of it, but there were rumors that a deal was coming, that Trouba's going to come to the Red Wings. So if that happens, or Devin, what do you think? Should it happen? Do you want Jacob Trouba coming in to the Red Wings?
I actually don't mind this move at all, especially if New York's retaining some of his salary. I've seen reports of them potentially retaining 2.5 million of his 8 million. So then you're getting Jacob Trouba for 5.5 for 2 years. I think that's a better contract or a better deal than what you're going to get on free agency. Matt Roy, I'll throw out a name. He's someone that they might target in free agency, but you're going to give him, 6 million for 6 years or whatever. And then you're tied down to that. And then, maybe that contract doesn't age very well. Whereas Trouba, you have him for 2 years. And then guess what? In 2 years, Axel Sandin-Pellikka is probably ready to go. So you kind of just lead right into there. And also, for what it's worth, Trouba's from Michigan. They love their Michigan-born guys. And Trouba also is he's a physical guy. He obviously is kind of known for making some questionable hits from time to time. And the Red Wings don't have that guy. Obviously, there's a time and place for that sort of physicality, but that would add a different look to the Red Wings blue line, and one that they don't have, and one that you could argue that they need. And just to kind of close my thoughts out, I think he would actually be a really good partner alongside Simon Edvinsson heading into next season. Just Trouba can kind of be the physical stay-at-home guy and let Edvinsson do what he does best, and that's move the puck and engage in the offensive zone.
He also has a full no movement clause, or he did, and it's going to change to a modified no trade, includes a 15-team trade list. I mean, I don't think he would block a trade going to the Red Wings from Michigan, like you said. I don't really foresee that. Fact that he was surprised by his name being in the rumors is kind of a thing, I think, for me. But Evan, what do you think about Jacob Trouba coming to the Red Wings potentially?
Well, I think the Red Wings should start rebranding the team name to the Michigan Wolverines Alumni Program. there's no club that has more Michigan players than it, you know. And hey, that's great. Michigan is a hockey hotbed. So, once again, I'm late to the party here with Devin saying everything I've already wanted to say. But I'm fine with Trouba coming over. I like the physical presence, and we haven't had something like that since the days of Cronwall. We need somebody who out there get physical. There's too many puck battles lost down low this season, too many turnovers, and yeah, Trouba can get a little crazy out there. But hey, you know what? Let's get crazy. I think I think it's a good move. Like Devin said, for 2 years left on the deal, we've heard everything from them retaining 25% to 35% or up to 30. So that could be work really well. And hey, another Michigan boy back at home. So. I like the deal depending on, how it all plays out. I'm confused as to why he wouldn't love it as much, but there's a lot of talk around the rumors. I mean, the fun part about Twitter right now is just there's so many different rumors. He said, she said, all this different stuff going on of like we don't know the details. We don't know what's going behind on the scenes there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'd like to see Trouba here. I would love that physical presence to happen on the back end once again. And like he said, I think he'd be a great pairing with Simon Edvinsson. Let him do his thing and let Trouba do his thing. Mm-hmm. So if he comes, I'm okay with it. I think I said yesterday, I hate like it. And, every time I think about Trouba, all I think about is that hit he tried to lay out on Netchus in the playoffs where he just the flying diving elbow.
Yeah.
That's something the Red Wings need right now. We need that grit. So I'm looking forward to it if it does happen. That was another thing that people were I thought it was going to be done deal by yesterday. So many people were texting me that while I was driving through the desert and I almost drove off the road 7 times. But it was, I'm in for that deal if it happens. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I like Trouba. I mean, I think I agree with both of you guys. He does have those questionable hits and questionable things, but he is very tough and he's a great shot at blocking shots too. He's his physical presence. He would be a really good addition to the Red Wings blue line. But I'd say, what are they giving up to get him? I think that's always the biggest thing. What are they trading? And that there's going to be salary retention, which is great. But we'll see. We'll see how that trade goes.
I don't think they're giving up much for him. I think the Rangers want him off the books to pursue other moves. So I don't think we're going to see much as far as the asking price there. So
yeah,
theoretically, if the Red Wings had to attach a second to Walman to move him, what do the Rangers have to attach to Trouba, right? I don't know that there will be an attachment. I think this might be a more complicated deal than we think. But like you said, Evan, I think that I don't think Detroit's giving up a ton for this.
No, I don't think so too. I mean, it's probably more of a salary thing. That's again, the Rangers want to get rid of some salary, and he's the top name on that list. So they want to get active in free agency too. All right, let's pay the bills and talk about, the draft guide's done. So the draft is done. Talk about the Substack. Make sure to check out our Detroit Red Wings Substack and all of our stuff over at the Substack. Lots of stuff over there with the draft wrapping up. We got draft recaps for all the teams you can take a look at. We also got the premium tier, which gives you a bunch of articles every month on a variety of topics that we got going. So check that out in the link below. All right, well, let's return to the draft and talk about the Red Wings draft class, which started with the first round pick and pretty actually familiar. Michael Nygaard goes to the Red Wings, very Red Wings pick, very Yzerman pick. When he was drafted, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. We were talking about other guys, but Beckett Seneca went third overall. So he was off the board very early. Red Wings had no chance on him. So let's talk about this draft class. It had quite a few names, some interesting ones. And I'll start with you, Evan, so that Devin has to catch up on you can get the first word. So what'd you think about the Red Wings draft class? Anyone stand out? Players that kind of intrigue you? What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, the Red Wings definitely have their kind of guy. I mean, that's the first thing Devin said when I texted him that I wonder what their thoughts were, him and Tony's thoughts were on who was left on the board. But I don't hate it. I don't love it. But I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to see a swing on Cole Yzerman. I just think the goal scoring ability is something that's hard to pass up, and we've seen so many times where scouts worry about size and all those other things, but goal scoring ability is just something that just doesn't grow on trees. So I don't dislike him. I think he went exactly where he was. I mean, if we all think about all the mock drafts we've looked at heading into the draft, I mean, how many times have we seen this guy mocked to the Red Wings? It was like
Since like March.
this is
Yeah.
perfect Wings pick. So I'm okay with it. I think part of the factor goes into it that he's probably one of them closer to being NHL ready than a lot of these prospects in the first round. So if he spends, and he's supposed to play with Axel Sandin Pellikka next season, so I like that part of it. And if he's ready after next season to come over, this guy's got grinder potential and he's got a little bit of offensive scoring touch. Is he a guy that's going to be scored 30, 40 goals? I don't think so. But I think he's going to definitely be a middle impact top six winger.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like that. Now, the second round, the Max Plant pick, which I alluded to earlier, like I said, there were guys on the board that I thought had greater ceilings. So, again, I'm not a scout. And I'm sure the Red Wing scouts know a lot more than I do when you just think about Max Plant. And we'll be writing an article about him this week. He does have some potential offensively. I think he's more of a playmaker, setup guy than a goal scorer. So yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic. But if you saw consistently through this draft, you definitely see that the Red Wings have a type, and they've had the same type over the years. So. I digress. I think it was, it wasn't exciting. It wasn't a super exciting draft by any means, but there's a couple guys that I think could come through here and be potential NHL players through it.
Yeah, Max Plant, Yzerman had some really glowing words for him right after he was drafted. And his quote, he has tremendous hockey sense, moves the puck very well, very deceptive skater, moves well on the ice. But I really liked hockey sense and creativity. And when Chris Draper goes into that character kid, you can tell he grew up around the game, hockey sense again, up and down the lineup. This is a guy that's sounds like an Yzerman pick. Sounds like a Draper pick. It's Red Wings pick. So there you go.
I will say I did talk to two scouts yesterday who told me that they were not a best fan of the pick. They thought the Red Wings should have went best player available. And they just, I don't know. We really like Teddy Stiga. That's the one that I was really hoping for, and he did go after. So It is what it is. That's why they're drafts, and we'll find out in a couple of years who's right and who's wrong. That's why it's exciting and fun for us.
Yeah. Son of Derek Plant, played 450 games in the NHL. So,
with the Sabres, huh?
Yeah. So
okay.
Derek Plant won a cup with the Stars in 1999. So yeah, he's got some NHL bloodlines and 450 games, quite a few games he's around. So there you go. All right, Devin, over to you. What do you think about the Detroit Red Wings draft class? I know I messaged the channel right after they picked Franz Nygaard. I'm like, there's an Yzerman pick right there. We talked about him. So what do you think about the class?
Oh boy. So I think, like I said to Evan, I think that Red Wings have a type. And I think moving forward, a year from now when we're doing mock drafts, for our sites and Even just like as we're communicating with other people in the hockey community, I think um I think I it's going to be almost easier to like predict who the Red Wings are going to pick because at this point they kind of keep picking the same type of guy. So as long as you find that guy next year, you can probably just go, yeah, that's who they're going to pick, and well, they're probably going to pick that guy. So I guess in terms of me looking smart, I'm looking forward to finding that guy for next year. Um, but no, so to be serious though, I think Brent Nygaard, I think if he hits his max potential, if he's a Marian Hossa. And that would be a very welcome
Mm.
addition to this Red Wings prospect pool. And I do want to say real quick too, just while I have it on my mind, as much as we kind of joke and say, oh, they keep picking the same guy, Casper and Danielson and now Brent Nygaard, they're all the same player. Yeah, not really. They have a lot of the same traits. They have those Red Wings traits that we're referring to. But I think Brandstad Nygaard is a better scorer than the other two.
Mm.
I think that Danielson is a better playmaker than the other two. I think Casper's kind of that probably the best two-way guy out of
Mm.
the three of them, I think. So as much as they all kind of look and play the same, they do have their specialties that kind of set them apart. I think that Nygaard could be a 30 goal scorer at his peak. Maybe he's a 30-30 guy. I'd welcome that out of the first round, especially with the 15th pick. When you're picking 15th, it's very rare you're gonna get, a slam dunk, 100-point season player. If you can get a really good second line player that can maybe play on the first line, I think you made a good pick. Um, Now to talk outside of the first round, I think the thing I like the most is just getting players at every position pool or every position. They even picked a goalie, and I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting that. But like I get it, you want to keep your depth, right? Kosa's gonna be graduating soon. Augustine's gonna be moving to the pro level at some point, so it's nice to just kind of keep guys in the system. But then also, like I said, Brent Nygaard can be a scorer. Um, the guy they picked in the this sixth round, Charlie Forsland. He actually reminds me a lot of Brent Nygaard. Plays a very similar game. Also a bigger guy, 6'3", 212, likes to shoot the puck and score, and he's the Red Wings token Swede of the draft as well. So they have their two guys that can shoot the puck. And then, like you said, with Plant and their third round pick, Andre Becker, they're both playmakers. They both like to create from the perimeter and set guys up. So they got some scorers, they got some passers, they got a goalie, they got a defensive defenseman, they got a guy who can move the puck from the blue line. They got a little bit of everything, honestly, while staying true to the traits that they've identified that they really look for in
Mm.
prospects. So I'm sure if you were to walk up to Little Caesars Arena tomorrow and ask, Steve Yzerman and Chris Draper how they feel they did in this draft, they'd tell you that they did really well. They're very excited because they got a bunch of prospects that fit their mold. Um, and I guess what that means is we'll have to wait a few years to see if they made the right picks because Lord knows Detroit's very patient with their guys. Um, but I guess to kind of finish the thought, I remember being a little disappointed in the Casper pick. And then a year passed. And then I was like, actually, you know what? I think they made a really good pick with Marco Casper. And then they picked Nate Danielson. And I was like, they should have picked somebody else. And then a year has passed. And now I'm like, man, Nate Danielson might be a player. He might even be like a top center someday. And now, yeah, maybe Brent Nygaard wasn't the most exciting pick they could have made. But if tradition holds, a year from now, I'm going to be like, that Brent Nygaard guy. I said Marian Hossa. I think I was right.
Yeah, I've liked Brent Nygaard. Talked about on Prospect Corner quite a few times, and I really like how he plays because he is a very already kind of a seasoned player in a two-way sense that he could, like you said, Evan, play in the NHL sooner than some of the other guys, and that's a good thing to have, especially for a team that wants to be a little bit accelerated on that road, right? So you want some prospects that are a little more easier to get in. And I said that about Nate Danielson last year too. that he's probably in the NHL a lot sooner than some of these other guys because he's more mature two-way. And Casper, I think I said the same thing about him.
Yep.
They're all three guys, and again, that's Red Wings picks. They like these guys a bit more ahead of the curve, I think, and that's what it seems like the last 3 first rounders have been, and it's great.
And the goalie they drafted too, of course, is 6'5", Landon Miller, in the 4th round. I didn't see him taking the goalie in the 4th round, but yeah, they like their big goalies now too. So
yeah, and of course they pick a guy with a good name too, John Whipple. I like
Whipple,
that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
not saying Branson Nygaard's a great name too.
It's going to be great. Yeah, it's going to be great for Mickey to try to say that.
Absolutely.
I think they're just going to settle on MB. There's no way that they're going to go with that name. It's just going to be MBN, MBN.
and ASP.
Yeah.
Shout out to the guy that ASP to MBN. That's right. And shout out to the guy who had to build the Branson Nygaard jersey after the draft.
The nameplate.
It's like the Nygaard, like a nameplate rainbow on his back. So shout out to that guy.
That was great. Yeah, I remember. Let's see that. All right. Well, I like the draft class. I mean, like you said, there's some intriguing players, some interesting ones, and we'll see how it all plays out in the next year, and we'll see how they all progress. And we won't know for, like I say, the 5-year mark seems to be the time we kind of look back and say, well, some of these guys may not be working out, or ones are close to the NHL, and we're starting to see that with a few of them already. So we'll just have to wait and see. And that's the mantra of Prospect Corner. It's wait and see, because that's what's gonna happen. All right, let's move from the draft back to free agency, which again, if you're watching this, you probably could be around, already be happening. You could be watching it a few hours before free agency. But we'll talk about it, and we'll open it with an update. We've alluded to it throughout the show. Patrick Kane is expected to sign a 1-year deal with the Red Wings, and by the time you watch this, it'll probably be confirmed. I'm not sure about the money at this point. Probably going to be over the 2.75 that he made, definitely. But the key thing is he's coming back to the Red Wings. So quickly, before we get to some predictions and stuff, Devin, what do you think about it? You like it?
Oh, for sure. I think, if the Red Wings could, or if Red Wings fans could pick one player of all of their unrestricted guys to bring back, it would have been Patrick Kane. And there's a lot of guys there that are worthy of at least considering. So that speaks volumes to Patrick Kane. But we've said it a lot in the show. As soon as he joined the team, it took him a few games to get going, but then once he did, he looked like Patrick Kane. And he added just a certain something to the team that they haven't had, and honestly, probably since they were making the playoffs on a regular basis. I think that this kind of shows, because it's also a 1-year deal, which is crazy because it seemed like Kane's big thing he was going to be trying to get was term, not necessarily dollars, but term. Now, I'm sure this deal is going to be full of bonuses and whatnot, so I'm sure it's going to be pretty lucrative for Patrick Kane. But for Detroit to get him just to get him back, but then also to get him on that, like on a 1-year deal, I almost don't even care what the cap hit is. You got your guy, you get, all the people who bought Kane jerseys aren't going to feel disappointed about it, that they, return on investment type of thing. And then also, like we said, he probably was a really good influence on Lucas Raymond this year. Does that influence continue? And who else can he kind of, spread some Showtime magic to? I don't think the Red Wings could go wrong with this deal. The only way they could have gone wrong is if they didn't get him signed. So good on Steve Yzerman for getting it done.
Yeah. Now, Evan, I know you're happy about it. You're talking about him coming back, that we're worried that he wouldn't. He obviously sees that the Red Wings have a chance still. He doesn't want to go to a more contending team. What do you think about Kane re-signing here?
I felt, well, you guys all saw Celine Dion announce the pick for the Canadians, That's where my heart was thinking when I saw that Kane was resigning. You're here. No, nothing I fear. I'm just glad that he's back. I was gonna try to do Michael Buffer because you saw him do for the Philly one, but like that, you can get sued for that.
Yeah.
Trying to do Get Ready to Rumble. He's got that trademark to the nines.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously it's not 100% sure, but when Emily Kaplan says it, then I'm all in. Yeah, Showtime's back, baby, and that's what we wanted, and that's what we need on a 1-year deal. It's even I have a hard time believing that no one offered him more than 1 year, or maybe it's just he wanted to be back in Detroit, but
Yeah.
it works out perfectly for the team. I think everyone's going to be happy about this, and I mean, what more can you say? Showtime, what he did last year, it was just an energy in the building atmosphere that we haven't felt in a long time, even since the Datsuk days. By the way, I got a story for that after, but I already told Devin, so never mind. Yeah, I'm really excited. 1-year deal, Patrick Kane. Let's go, baby. Let's go. And to see what Steve could couple him with tomorrow, depending on who we sign, it might be time for some pre-playoff talk again heading into next season. So I'm through the roof on this, and I don't feel as bad about my Kane jersey purchase.
I just want to say real quick, I'm really curious if this now kind of sets them up to kind of do what Dallas did with Joe Pavelski. They Joe Pavelski signed like 3 or 4 1-year deals with Dallas, and just kind of every year they reassessed the situation and signed a 1-year deal and then reassessed it a year later.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering if that's where Patrick Kane's about to do with the Red Wings. Sign 1-year deals, get a bunch of bonuses, and just kind of keep it going as long as you can. Obviously, he has that hip. Obviously, he's not as young as he used to be. But if you can kind of just take it year by year, I don't know how you can be mad at that.
Hey, now we can start our Hip Gods t-shirts. The Hip Gods have
Yes, we can.
Hip Gods have another year of being prayed to and worshiped. We're good there.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's probably gonna be doing those 1-year deal things. I mean, it's just see how he feels every year, and if he still wants to play, and of course, you in a familiar place that you're successful in, why not? Just keep going instead of trying to restart and reset somewhere else that you don't know if you're going to be able to fit with anything. And there you go. All right. Well, let's talk about some things that could happen for the Red Wings. And of course, this is going to age really quickly because some of these guys will talk about maybe signed already by the time you're watching. But let's do it. Evan, I'll start with you. Who do you think the Red Wings are going to sign tomorrow or today?
I mean, if you look on Twitter, any social media now, everyone's talking about Stamkos, and I don't know what that deal would look like, but I know a lot of people are maybe a little apprehensive of a guy he is 34 years old, but he still scored 40 goals this year. He does train with Gary Suter during the offseason, and for those who don't know, Gary Suter, the former Flames defenseman, is probably the craziest workout guy you'll ever meet, and Stamkos is definitely a guy who is, as he's had injuries in the past, he has rehabbed his ass off to bounce back from them. So there's just so much speculation about it, but I'm again, like, he's towards the end of his career now, and even if he does move with Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay's they're in a weird spot for me right now because it seems like they're moving out a lot of players, but then Jake Gensel. Do they want to keep, do they want to try to hang on and keep going with Hedman and Kucherov and Point and Gensel? Is there something there? And Vasilevsky maybe, but to me, it's kind of strange to see the Steve Stamkos, the captain of that team, 15 years, 16 years, what is it? A guy who is probably the franchise's best player of all time, just to walk away like this. So I'm curious to see what happens with him tomorrow, but man, it's all over social media again. You remember like back in was that 2016 or 7 when he was a free agent, and the Hockey News had that magazine out, him in like 7 different jerseys.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of contenders that are coming after him too. I'm just curious why there's so much Red Wing speculation outside of Stevie being in Tampa Bay with him. if it was up to me, I would really like to see a guy like Jake DeBrusk brought in, just because of his age and his grittiness. I mean, just the last name DeBrusk. If you knew his dad from back in the day, Louis DeBrusk, just DeBrusk says like grit to me or something. And he has that physicality, and he can score, and he's a lot bigger, a left winger. I think there's going to be a lot of teams after him. He's always had that weird relationship with the Boston Bruins. It seems like every year it's either a trade demand or he's staying, going. That's a guy I would be interested in. Um, Outside of that, I mean, I'd like to see another, maybe a defenseman in. I know you're hinting towards maybe Jacob Trouba as well this week, but I don't know where he's going to fit in. I think they're going to have to move out. I mean, there's so many possibilities where this roster could end up tomorrow. I think a buyout might be coming as well, whether it's Hull, possibly Cop. That's just something a lot of people aren't talking about. You know, Yzerman said he's trying to move money, and it's hard right now. It's hard to move money right now. But you know, it's going to be a big indication. And as we all know, Steve Yzerman, you know, he keeps everything close to the vest. So who knows what could happen tomorrow? And I think that's the most exciting part about it tomorrow, because I have no clue. I can't tell you. I can't tell you or speculate as to anything is what he'll do tomorrow. I can tell you what I hope, but I know we can all say we have no clue. So, Devin, it's your turn. I'm lost, man. My brain's gone.
You know, it's hard not to like at least like meander slowly down the Stamkos road, right? Like the connections are all there, and it does sound like Stamkos is going to go to market. You know, it's not just Yzerman too; it's Derek Valone, right? It's I think I'm not willing to say the Red Wings are definitely going to sign Steven Stamkos today, tomorrow, however you want to look at it. But I think that they're going to be in there, and I think he's going to consider them. I think that he might be one of those guys that they moved money for, to be honest. And, you know, let's say your top line is Larkin and Raymond and DeBrincat. Is your second line Stamkos, Comfort, or and Kane, or you know, I mean, that's crazy. That's like it's one of those things where like you're playing a video game or something. It's kind of crazy. So I mean, I think we'll hear it until Stamkos either signs with Detroit or signs with someone else, to be honest. I do think they are still doing their darndest to sign Shane Gostisbehere. I wouldn't be surprised if they get something done at the last minute. I don't know how I feel about it, but I think that they're at least going to try and try and try until they can't anymore. But I guess if I could throw out one other player that I personally would like to see them shoot their shot with, Chandler Stevenson, actually, of the Vegas Golden Knights. He's one of those. It's kind of funny because in a lot of ways he kind of fits the same mold as Andrew Kopp and JT Compher, where he can kind of play all over the lineup, and he's a center, he's a winger, he's a two-way guy, he can play power play, penalty kill, blah 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 blah. But I also think that he is one of the more underappreciated players that was on that Golden Knights team. He was a second line center for them. And I know that like both Kopp and Comfer were a second line center for other teams as well, but Stevenson was a second line center because he was their second line center, not because somebody else was injured or you know, whatever. And he was a second line center on a Stanley Cup winning team too. So I don't know. I think Detroit loves their versatile forwards. I think Stevenson is that. And I think that he'd be a sneaky get if Detroit was to target him. But I'm not predicting that. Who I would go after if I was Steve Yzerman.
And Vegas isn't loyal to their players either, so they will not care. I don't know if you heard this story, but I did see it at the Sphere. Logan Thompson was signing autographs up front for Upper Deck, and he got traded. And he found out while he was signing the autographs, and told the fan, "You might need a new jersey after he signed him." So, you know, that'd be an interesting one. I like that, Devin.
Yeah, Chandler Stevenson is a Red Wings type player too. So yeah, definitely would fit. It's funny how those two names have also been talked about with the Canucks here too. Stamkos now too, because he has a little bit of a connection with Rick Tocchet, coached him in his first
yep.
year. So I don't know if it's as big of a connection as his coach from not that long ago, or assistant coach from not that long ago, and his GM. So it kind of is a bigger one in Detroit. But I was dreaming. I was like, what would Stamkos look on the Red Wings? What would Stamkos look on the Canucks? Both places it looked pretty good.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what Yzerman has up his sleeve. We'll probably be wrong on maybe right on the Stamkos one. I mean that does feel like it would really fit and that he would sign. But
So okay, real quick, I just want to throw this out there. If the Red Wings sign Steven Stamkos and they acquire Jacob Trouba, as well as, re-signing Patrick Kane, how do you feel about the Red Wings offseason? They have other stuff to do, but how would you feel about that?
I think it makes them competitive and it allows time for the prospects to develop, especially if these guys, they're not going to be on long-term deals or anything. Stamkos maybe a little longer. I think he'll age better, just because of his fitness that I talked about. But yeah, I mean it makes them a very competitive team, and we've seen teams make runs in the playoffs that you don't really expect to, and I think it could be really interesting. And it's also going to depend on some of these young guys stepping up. What kind of year is Evansson going to have? Where can Casper contribute? Down the road with some of the other guys. I mean, it buys them time, and it also makes the team very competitive. And
Absolutely.
I think that's what the organization is looking for right now, and we as fans want right now. So I'd be excited. I'd be excited, and it's I think that could be really fun.
I agree. I think those two things definitely, like Stamkos, like you both mentioned, is that he can still score. He's not on the decline. He's not looking like he's over the hill. He could still score 40 goals. I think he still could score. Could still score 20 plus on the power play. I don't know. Like
And then there's the allure of Patty Kane setting him up for one-timers. So him and DeBrusque could get jealous and kind of, I don't know. It could be amazing. So let's hope, man. I'll keep your phones on tomorrow. I'll be texting.
Yeah. Well, they also need them, like Yzerman said, it also needs the money to re-sign two big free agents next year. So Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider.
Who are they? We haven't even talked about them.
Yeah,
they got their qualifying offers today. So
they got their qualifying offers. That's all that's happened so far. But yeah, it's going to be a fun day. We'll react to it all. If there's a lot of big things, maybe get together for an episode before our normal time. We'll see. But thanks, Devin. Thanks, Evan, for coming on, talking Red Wings again. Lots of stuff to come. Make sure to check out everything at thehockeywriters.com. We'll react to all the free agent signings that as they happen, when they happen, and see how many big things go. But until our next episode, we'll see you on another episode of The Grindline.